Okay, so for today's virtual assignment, what we're going to do is we're going to do 5.7 Pythagorean Theorem continued. So with the Pythagorean Theorem, we discussed one main equation, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So when we did these problems, okay, we are dealing with right triangles. So when we have a right triangle that has one 90-degree angle, and that's going to be represented by this box inside. Our legs are going to be represented by our A and B. So A and B are going to be our legs. Our hypotenuse is our C. So hypotenuse is the line that's directly across from that 90-degree angle. So our hypotenuse is C squared. Now, when we did these equations, we were rounding to the nearest tenth in decimals. So what we're going to do today is we are going to add our radicals, and we're going to simplify in the nearest radical form. So that is going to be why we did simplifying radicals last class, when we had that last week. Okay, so there's going to be a couple different problems that we will have, but it will be very similar to what we did last week. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm just going to write one out and draw one, and we are going to solve it from there. So let's say we have this right triangle here. I'm going to say that this is 10, and I'm going to say that this side, how do we do this? Let's say this side is 5, and we need to find x. So when we solve this one, all right, we can tell, okay, right away, we have our two legs. We need to find our hypotenuse because that is directly across from the 90-degree angle. So we're going to set it up as, I'm going to move this up just a little bit, 5 squared plus 10 squared equals x squared. Or if you want to, you can make this c, because that is our hypotenuse. So let's go ahead and square our numbers. So we have 5 squared. That's going to be 25 plus 10 squared. That's going to be 100 equals c squared. So now I need to combine my like terms and add the numbers. So 25 plus 110, 125 equals c squared. And then since we need to find c, and it is c squared right now, we need to square root both sides to get rid of that squared. So what happens with the c is this square cancels out, and so does the square root. All right, and then typically we would put the square root of 125 in our calculator, all right, to get the decimal. But this time we need to round to the nearest, simplify in the nearest radical form. So what that's going to do is I'm going to move this 125 just right over here, and I need to create my tree and figure out what can come out of 25. How can I simplify this? Okay, so the biggest thing that you need to remember are the main square roots that you want to talk about. So think of, okay, square root 4 is going to equal 2, square root 9 equals 3, square root 16 equals 4, square root 25 equals 5. All right, you can keep going with 6 and down below, but you need to know these main 4 because those are the 4 that you will most likely use most of the time. Okay, so when I look at this one, all right, I know I can take out 25. So if I take out 25, all right, what times 25 is 125? Okay, so I can put my calculator, 125 divided by 25, and I get 5. So I need to make sure I write both of these in the square root. Now the square root of 25 comes out as a whole number, and that is 5. And then can we simplify the square root of 5? We cannot, so I'm going to go ahead and circle that. So let's go ahead, and now we need to multiply these. So I have 5 times square root 5. And then since these, one of them's in the square root and one of them's not, all right, we can't multiply them, so we just combine them. So when we have c equals 5 square root 5. and that is going to be our answer. Okay, that is perfect. So now let's go ahead and look at some examples that we will have. Okay, so this is what they're going to look like. It's going to say, find the length of the third side. If necessary, write in simplest radical form. So the biggest thing that you need to pay attention, if necessary. So if our answer is already a whole number, we don't need to put a square root, all right? But we are not working with any decimals here. So let's go ahead and solve this one. So this one right here, okay, we do not have the hypotenuse, okay, the side directly opposite from the 90-degree angle. So that is our C. So the way we're going to set this one up is we're going to set it up as 3 squared plus 8 squared equals C squared. And let's go ahead and solve and simplify. So 3 squared is 9 plus 8 squared, that's going to be 64 equals C squared. Okay, so then I have 9 plus 64. All right, and 9 plus 64 is going to be 73. 73 equals C squared. And then I have to get rid of the squared for the C, so I need to square root both sides. Okay, well, I need to simplify in the simplest radical form. Okay, so I need to figure out what C equals. So now let's go ahead and see, can we take out of anything out of square root 73? Okay, so this is where you're going to need your calculator. So let's put, if we have 73, let's divide it by 4 first. All right, does that come out as a whole number? It does not, so we can't take out 4. All right, let's try 9, because that's the next one that comes out as a whole number. So 73 divided by 9. All right, again, that doesn't come out as a whole number. Okay, let's try 16. Again, doesn't come as a whole number. Now try 25. Still not a whole number. Now we gotta try 36. Again, not a whole number. And if you check the other options, they do not come out as whole numbers. So the square root of 73 cannot be simplified. So there's our answer. So C is going to equal square root of 73, because that is the simplest radical form. All right, we cannot take anything out, so that is our answer right there. Okay, perfect. And that's just what you would put in the blank in your delta math. Let's look at this one. Okay, we need to find the length of the third side. Again, lucky us, it's going to be, we need to find the hypotenuse again. So this is going to look just like the other ones. So I have my 2 legs, so I'm going to do 2 squared plus 2 squared equals C squared. Now we need to simplify. So what is 2 squared is 4, right? And 2 squared again is 4 equals C squared. Now I have 4 plus 4, which is 8, equals C squared. Now I need to square root both sides to get rid of that squared. Now this time, let's look. When we have square root 8, can we take out anything? Because we need to write in the simplest radical form. Well, this one we've talked about in person, all right? We can take out 4. So if I take out 4, what times 4 equals 8? All right, that's going to be 2. So I have square root 4 and square root 2. Can I simplify the square root 4? Yes, I can. That's going to come out as a whole number. Just 2, so I'm going to circle it. Can I simplify square root 2? I cannot, so I'm going to circle that. So now I need to multiply them. So I have 2 times square root 2. Can I multiply these? I cannot. So my answer for C is going to be 2 square root 2. Okay, perfect. All right. Now, if you want to try some on your own, you can just pause the video at any time. But let's look at one that's going to be just slightly different. Oops. I want to get out of it just a little bit. I'll zoom back in a second when I can. So this one. Again, we are simplifying in the simplest radical form. Okay, so this one, we need to pay attention because one of the numbers is already a square root. So if it's already a square root, it actually is going to make it a little easier for us. So this time, we need to find the missing side. So this time we have our hypotenuse. So that's already going to be 9. So I need to set it up and find a leg. So let's say we're going to find A. So I just got to set it up in the Pythagorean theorem again. So A squared plus our other leg is going to be square root 17. So I'm going to put square root 17 squared equals 9 squared. Okay, perfect. Now I need to simplify. So A squared plus, now let's look at this. I have a square root squared. Okay, whenever we have a square root squared, they just cancel out. So no need to square the 17. These just cancel out. So that leaves me with just 17 right here. Okay, so if you have a square root squared, they cancel out and you just leave that number. I'm going to equal that to 9 squared, which is 81. So now I need to go ahead and get A by itself. So I'm going to subtract 17. And that is A squared equals 81 minus 17 is 64. Now I need to get rid of the squared on the A, so I'm going to square root both sides. Okay, well, I need to just simplify in the simplest radical form. So if I take square root 64, okay, one thing that we should notice right away, does the square root of 64 come out as a whole number? And you can go ahead and put this in your calculator to see. When you put it in your calculator, you're going to notice the square root of 64 is 8. So in this case, our job's pretty easy. A is just going to equal 8. And that is our missing side. All right, so you do not need any square root on this answer. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and move to the next question. Okay, this one's going to be very similar, but just a tiny bit different. So let's go ahead and look at this one, because this time we have a simplified radical. All right, so we need to figure out what we're going to do here. So on this one, let's go ahead and look. Again, I have my hypotenuse. So let's just go ahead and name this leg A. We're going to solve for A again. So I have A squared plus, now I need to put my other leg, so that's going to be 2 square root 6 squared equals 7 squared, because that's my hypotenuse. So I have A squared plus, now this is where we have to pay attention if we have simplified radical as one of our legs or even as our hypotenuse. If I have 2 square root 6 squared, okay, I need to apply this squared to both numbers. So what's going to happen is I need to do 2 squared, and what is 2 squared? It's going to be 4, and then when we square a square root, that just cancels out. So I'm going to go ahead and put, and just leave my 6 there. And I need to multiply them. Okay, so I'm going to leave that right there. And then I'm just going to do 7 squared, and 7 squared is going to be 49. So when you go ahead and simplify, so I have A squared plus, what's 4 times 6? That's 24 equals 49. Now, just don't forget, the reason we got 24 is because I applied this square to both the 2 and the square root 6. Now, we couldn't multiply these before because one of them's in a square root, okay? Because we need to look at this as, think of it as 2 times square root 6, okay? We did the squared to the 2, and that's how we got 4. Then when you square a square root, okay, those just cancel out, and that leaves us with just 6. And then you need to multiply them, so that's how we got 24. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. So I need to get A by itself, so let's subtract 24 over. a squared equals 25. And I need to get rid of the squared on the a. So I need to square root both sides. When the square root happens, these cancel out and leaves with just a. And then look what we have here. We have square root 25. Does that come out as a whole number? It does. So we don't need to make any tree because right here is our simplest radical form. A is going to equal 5. Now, when you do these problems on your own, don't forget you can look at the notes that I have written here. All right, make sure you're using your calculator. And then don't forget you can click show help. You can click the show help on the watch video. You can use that for help, right? Or the show example problems, and you can use those as well. Okay, take your time on these problems, all right? And you can ask one of your classmates to probably help you as well. But go ahead and take your time. If you have any questions, feel free to email me.